Okay, so you guys have watched in real time as I've uncovered this information in this video. Number one, the kid, no one knew who he was. At his own house, the next door neighbor's like, I've never seen that kid before.
Or black zip-up hoodie with the hood up and a black backpack.
She called people about it. She's like, I don't know, there's some shady kid with a hood on that's getting on the bus. I've never seen this kid before. I've seen the brothers and sisters that live there. I've never seen this kid. I don't know why he's getting on the bus. Does that seem relevant? Right? Does that seem relevant? And she's willing to go on the news to talk about it? And you saw his neighborhood. There's nothing there. And then you got the guy who traced the FBI cell phone from the Butler rally shooter back to the, back and forth between the FBI plaza and that house a million times. And now you got that same retired FBI agent somewhere near this shooter in Georgia 11 times over the last year. That's a coincidence? That doesn't seem relevant? This is Georgia. That was in Pennsylvania. How is this same guy in both places? When I found out that the father was being indicted for second-degree murder, and then I looked this up and I heard their explanation for it, I went, what? All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back. All right, so we have the Georgia shooting at the school that happened day before yesterday, and I looked into this story a little bit this morning because the father's been charged with second-degree murder, the father. And I was like, wait a minute, because I had seen this headline last night, and I'm like, wait a minute, dude. There's more than one shooter, according to an eyewitness. There's also some super, super shady stuff that I'll show you in this video related to, like, where did this kid come from? They're saying that this kid came out of nowhere. Like, no one knew this kid. No one had ever seen this kid. The neighbors are like, the first time I had seen him was the day that I saw him that morning coming out and going to school. Literally never seen this kid before. So given the weirdness that continues to happen around the, the other major shooting, I mean, listen, dude, I don't know. Like, there is absolutely no possible upside that I could see in any kind of conspiracy around this. It doesn't even make sense to me. Like, what would the benefit be? You know what I mean? I'll get into that in a second. But also, we're going to talk about the actual nature of the indictment that his father was put on. Like I said, the father got indicted on second-degree murder. And I don't think I should have to qualify the fact that I think any kind of school shooting is so tragic that, any commentary that I give around this, I assume, again, it goes without saying, I'm not minimizing deaths of children ever, or teachers, dude. As a matter of fact, like Gabrielle and I are dropping a video later today on the Georgia shooting that we filmed yesterday. It's like that'll put that to bed for sure. That's on my second channel, Play with Matches. The link is in the description if you want to check that out with myself and my wife. Now, so as it relates to this story, let's get into this thing. I want to show you what I saw last night on Redacted about the fact that this kid came out of nowhere, the fact that there's witnesses saying there are more than one shooters, and then we'll get into the story about the father getting indicted and the legitimacy of that particular decision.
Coming out of the school shooting at Appalachia High School in Georgia. Now, the official story is that a single person, a 14-year-old student, Colt Gray, shot and killed 4 people and injured 9 others, allegedly. Allegedly, this is the official story. Of course, he will appear in court tomorrow. He is now in custody. But apparently the neighbors never saw this kid before. Didn't even know who he was. Except for the morning of the shooting, he came out of nowhere.
First, the latest on the...
That is so weird. That is so weird. And by the way, if you think that's weird, why don't you subscribe to this channel? Because I share your opinion, which means you will probably hear a lot of things that you agree with going forward.
Suspect. Within the last few hours, we received the first picture of 14-year-old Colt Gray. This is a yearbook photo that a parent shared with 11 Alive, picture taken 2 years ago when he was in middle school. Gray was booked overnight facing murder charges, and he will be tried as an adult. 11 Alive's Ariana Manise joining us now with what we know about his first court appearance. Ariana.
Cheryl, he'll make his first court appearance tomorrow morning at the Borough County Courthouse. Already investigators are combing through evidence in connection to Colt Gray. Now, 11 Alive, we went to his home yesterday, which is about 6 miles away from Appalachia High School, where we saw ATF investigators. They spent...
Dude, I mean, I'm not trying to be flippant here, but if I envision the home of a school shooter in Georgia, this is a little on the nose. You know what I mean? Pretty on the nose right here. that this would be the kid's home.
Hours going in and out of his home. Now, we spoke to a neighbor who lives across the street from him, and she says she only would see his younger siblings and his dad and wasn't aware that he lived at the home until yesterday when she saw him waiting for the bus the first time.
That is what, guys, what do you make of that, dude? Okay, now listen to her too. Like, this is not a person who's not observant.
Interesting. First time. Didn't know who this person was. Where have we heard this before? No one knows who this person is. Like this eagle-eyed neighbor. So this eagle-eyed neighbor who like notices everything reminds me of my grandmother who used to sit in her rocking chair and look out the window in Pennsylvania. And she knew everything. She knew every detail about the comings and goings of all the children in the neighborhood. This kid wasn't at school today. He was homesick. She knew everything. There's a guy across the street that used to mow the lawn with his shirt off. She called him Tarzan. So my grandmother used to say Tarzan was out mowing his lawn today. She knew everything, just like this eagle-eyed neighbor. And stop me if you've heard this before. The FBI knew about this kid over a year ago, and they were watching him.
Hey, by the way, did you guys see the Babylon Bee? The Babylon Bee put out a post yesterday, and they were like, we just want to lay any concerns to rest that the next 10 school shooters that shoot up in school with. I'm butchering this. I actually should not even finish this joke. I should just show it to you later. That is embarrassing. Let's continue.
Thanks to Into Thin Air for posting this eagle-eyed neighbor watch.
Here at the home where he lived with his father and two younger siblings. This house right here along Harrison Mill Road is only about 6 miles from Appalachia High School. Now, until today, the neighbor directly across the street never even knew a teenager lived at this home, only seen his two younger siblings around, but never Colt Gray until this morning.
He had on jeans, a dark or black zip-up hoodie with the hood up, and a black backpack. I don't know. I just felt odd. So hours later, this starts unfolding, and then my grandson sends me a picture that's one of the students at Appalachia snapped of the shooter when he had his gun in his hand. And he said, Gigi, is this who you saw? And that was the boy.
That is so wild, dude. That is so wild. I mean, listen, dude, like when you see something that, that doesn't feel right, I mean, you could be like a really paranoid person, obviously, and be spazzing out. We actually had that recently on our street. We have neighbors down the road that are, they're actually two women that are married, and they're like, they have kids that are our kids' age. They play at our house, we play at their house, whatever. And they were like, listen, we just want you to know, we've seen some like gray pickup truck that is like very consistently is like driving really slow up and down our street. And she's like, we've seen him enough times that we just thought we would warn you guys. Cause my kids are out, riding. They've got like little mopeds. They rip around our streets. And so, we kept an eye out. And then we ultimately figured out that it was the like boyfriend of someone who lives, like some girl that lives on our street or whatever. Like that, either he's just a dimwit that's like texting while he's driving or whatever, or like, who knows, maybe he's like creeping on her and he's like, I just want to make sure she's not whatever. But the behavior was weird. Either way, you should always like look at it. And in that situation, you guys saw that house, right? Like that's, dude, I don't think there's a whole lot going on there. You know what I mean? So if that's the first time that she saw that kid and she's like, this looks really weird, you should listen to her, because it doesn't seem like there's a ton of incoming data for her to be wrong about. You know what I mean? Like in our situation, there's a million cars that, that come in and out. It's not like we live on some main street, but we live in a cul-de-sac, but there's still a ton of cars that come in and out. That house, they don't have, did that look like a neighborhood? It looked like there was probably two neighbors like within, like eyesight. So if she says she's never seen the kid there before, that's weird, dude. Bottom line, that's weird. That house is a house on its own. I don't really have any, again, I have no idea what would their incentive to do this be though? You know what I mean? What possible incentive would they have? They're like, oh yeah, and I will say this too. When when the White House press secretary made her speech, relating to this, I was watching. I was mad, dude, already, just because, like, I just, because I saw Plies. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He's some rapper from either, I can't even remember if it's Fugees or Black Eyed Peas or whatever. But his post was, Elon Musk and DT are trying to scare you about immigration because they hate people that don't look like them. Meanwhile, they don't give a damn about people getting murdered in our schools. And you're like, how could you possibly be more deranged than have that viewpoint of this, given that your people have been in office for almost 4 years? Dumb ass. Like, are you serious? Like, the guy hasn't been in control for almost 4 years. How could you possibly still be blaming him for current events? And that's my point. It's like, you stick someone out and it's like, oh, geez, look at this. We've got this going on. Now, maybe if we are speculating, or let's not even say maybe, let's just say, what would the incentive to juke this thing be, right? Because, I mean, look, dude, I see this woman say, I've never seen this kid before. I'm going to listen to her. But what reason would the powers that be have to start setting up school shootings? The only thing that I can think of that makes any sense to me is that it's the election and they've figured, like, listen, like, let's run that game again and we can hammer the other candidate that look, they're the ones that are soft on gun control. Okay. Are you going to lie? You guys, do you not care about the children? That's their whole game, dude. Is that I was talking about this with my mom last night related to like fiscal responsibility in government. It's unbelievable to me that people, the gap in people's thinking when it comes to like, how am I evaluating the government, is they never look at outcomes, right? They listen to the campaign, but then they never look at outcomes, or at the very least, they don't hold them responsible for the outcomes. But it's like, okay, like, let's say you were going to look at San Francisco's budget as an example, and you found out that they spend $200 million a year on homelessness. And you're like, where is that? Their entire mandate is to spend that money and to improve the homelessness problem in San Francisco. It gets worse every single year. So you're like, where is that money going? How are you allocating that $200 million every single year? And I'm making that number up. I think it might be bigger than that. You know what I mean? And then, so then when you run on that campaign, they'll, them over there will be like, we care about the most vulnerable in our community. And those guys, they want to cut that budget. They don't care. They don't care about the problem. And people are like, yeah, you know what? I care about homelessness. I'm voting for them. It's like a complete like shell game, because you're like, no, what we're saying is you're wasting all this money. We're saying you spend this money and nothing gets better. You guys are a money suck. What's the government at the end of the day? Like, what is it? How does it exist? It exists because we all put money into a pool that then they're supposed to use to improve the collective society that they are responsible for. How are you guys doing? Oh, we gave you $200 million to help with homelessness. You failed. It gets worse every single year. Okay? So like, if we're like, let's cut the budget, we're saying do more with less, because you're doing nothing with this. Like, let's actually break down how you're spending this money. And you go and look, and every single time it's idiotic spends that do not make any difference. So like, again, like in this case, I mean, the hypothetical we're talking about would be like, we get on the school, we're doing school shootings again. We're doing school shooting. Like last election, we're doing BLM. Now we're doing school shootings. Which, I mean, I've been shocked by the lack of them running a very specific game this entire, election. But I think they had an ace up their sleeve, which was they thought that he was going to be dead, But, again, if they're running that thing, then all they're going to do, oh, my God, you want to vote for the guys that don't care about dead kids? Don't you care about dead kids? It's ridiculous. Okay, so using GPS, the same dirtbag retired FBI agent we've linked to other shooters was within 1,000 feet of this shooter's mobile device 11 times in 14 months. What? What? Oh my God. Dude, I've been talking for 14 minutes and I just got to this part. This is the same guy that showed the cell phone data for the shooter in Butler and showed that there was the cell phone that had been at his house, the shooter's house, over and over and over, and then was going back to a building in DC in the same plaza as the FBI. He's saying the exact same guy was within 1,000 feet of this shooter's mobile device 11 times in the last 14 months. Think about that. Now, 1,000 feet sounds like a lot, right? But think about this kid's life. This is a kid. You saw his house. You saw the guy's house. Does he look like a guy who, spends a lot of time spread out all around the city and country? No, the guy, if the kid lived at that house, he's probably at the house, school, home, the end. You know what I mean? So how on earth is that same guy who's been going to Butler, Pennsylvania, right? Over and over and over. How is that guy within 3 football fields of this shooter also? Wow. That changes things a lot. And then you have this, Laura Loomer points out that, Laura Loomer points out that there seems to always be a school shooting in a swing state or a caucus state right before an election, every election year, like clockwork. Just making an observation. I don't really know what that means, but honest to God, if I would have led off with that, I would have been like, okay, dude, like, let's not pretend every single thing is a conspiracy. But now, after we saw that cell phone data stuff and the fact that the next door neighbor has never seen this person before, listen, dude, if that cell phone data report is wrong, then I retract this. But
Sources in Georgia sent us this fundraising email. Thank you to this source for sending this. If you're watching, thank you. This was sent out within minutes of the shooting from Democrats trying to raise money for Democrats, blaming Republicans for the shooting. This was sent out as an email. Republican Mike Collins has blood on his hands. The deaths in Barrow County are a direct result of his support for weapons of war. He's hiding behind the Second Amendment. He must be defeated. He's our #1 target in Georgia. Help send a message now. Donate to defeat him. Donate to restrict weapon sales.
Hey, I'm just going to point out really quick. Anybody who saw the Destiny debate where we were talking about incitement and he was using those tweets and being like, look at what they said. He is our #1 target in Georgia is what that says right there. Democrat, fundraising outreach. Okay. That's 10 times worse than anything that was said by the big guy on J6. So I'm just pointing that out. Okay. So they're saying that, the implication would be that if this is a work, it's a work because, it's an election year. I have no idea, dude. I don't even know what to make of this, man. But now let's look at the father getting indicted because I'm going to be honest, this is insane to me. All right, so now we move over here, and I'm going to tell you before we even look at this, when I found out that the father was being indicted for second-degree murder, and then I looked this up and I heard their explanation for it, I went, what? All right, so let's watch this thing.
We do have the director there of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, also the Barrow County Sheriff. Let's listen.
We wanted to come back and update you on the progress of the case this evening. I appreciate you being here. In coordination with the District Attorney Brad Smith, the GBI has arrested Colin Gray, age 54, in connection to the shooting here at Appalachia High School. Colin is Colt Gray's father that was arrested yesterday. He is charged with the following: 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children. Mr. Gray, these charges stem from Mr. Gray knowingly allowing his son, Colt, to possess a weapon. This is a very difficult time, as we know, for students and parents, and so...
Okay, so let me pause it right there. So, to be clear, the kid's 14 years old. Okay? He's 14 years old. And I'm not saying that in a way that I expect it to like give you some kind of opinion one way or the other on whether it's okay for a 14-year-old to own a rifle. Okay. But to act as if it is very uncommon for a 14-year-old boy to have a rifle that is theirs, I don't think that's a very rare thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not super, doesn't mean it's like everyone does it, obviously. Like, but a 14-year-old having a rifle, that is not super uncommon. So the kid is being charged as an adult. You can't have it both ways. Okay. Like, if the kid's being charged as an adult, then what you're saying is this kid is, you know, his brain, he's a grown-up, right? Like, he's being charged as a grown-up. But then you're also charging the father with second-degree murder because he allowed his kid to have a rifle. Okay, those two things cannot coexist. Okay? Those two things cannot coexist. You can't have it both ways, in my opinion. Now, if you want to charge the father for something, you know, I totally understand. But second-degree murder, okay, you can either charge the kid as a child and charge the dad as the grown-up that should have been in charge, or you can charge the kid as an adult, and the dad cannot be held responsible also for every bit of what happened. You know what I mean? Like, the two things, that just seems very weird to me. And, like, okay, the way that I look at law enforcement just in general, like general terms, is you are supposed to enforce the law. If someone breaks the law, that's what law enforcement is. Someone breaks the law. Okay. Did the father break the law when he got the kid a rifle? I mean, like, seriously, I'm asking a serious question. Did the father break the law when he got the kid the rifle? Because if not, okay, the kid went to the school and murdered people. He broke the law. He is facing justice for that. He's going to go to jail for the rest of his life. Best case scenario, probably, because he's getting tried as an adult. I don't know if Georgia has the death penalty or whatever. I don't think people are going to give the death penalty to a 14-year-old either way. But nonetheless, okay, the fact that if someone doesn't break the law and then something bad happens as a result of something they did that's not illegal, then why are you charging him with second-degree murder? I don't understand that. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I say this because I like to be consistent. I don't like to make emotional, you know, decisions. I don't like emotional opinions. I mean, I understand if people get emotional talking about their opinions, but if there's no logic behind it, then I have to push back, dude. That doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, you know, listen, man, the community is reeling and we need to heal the community. Okay. Well, you caught the kid, you know, the kid is going to go to jail forever. Whatever you're doing now is not going to bring the children back. So like, you're just charging the father with the father didn't commit a crime unless it's a crime for him to get a weapon for the 14-year-old, which as far as I know is not a crime. You know, I think what they're saying, I think what they're implying was that he bought the weapon and he allowed his son to possess it. So basically he bought it in his own name and then he let his kid basically like, this is basically my gun. Okay. Now, if I was going to buy a rifle for my daughter, my oldest daughter's 12. Let's say I was going to buy her first rifle. And I was like, we need to teach you firearm safety, you know, like if you're doing it the right way. I have no idea what the father's doing. But if I'm like, yeah, we're going to teach you firearm safety. This is going to be your firearm. Okay. Like, and then something happens with that firearm. Like, but I wouldn't put it in her name. I would just buy it, you know, and then I would be like, this is yours. So you need to be responsible. You need to keep the trigger guard on. You know, we'd go to the range. It'd be like, you don't ever, ever, ever touch the trigger unless you're already pointed safely down range. That's the only time you ever touch the trigger. You know, all the just boilerplate safety stuff. But again, what they're talking about is they let him possess the weapon. Okay, so how is he charged with second-degree murder? I don't know. That's really weird to me. That doesn't make any sense at all. But, yeah, so as usual, something crazy happens and we have lots of questions about it because that's just the world that we live in now. So, yeah, man, I don't know, dude. But I will say this. I'm about to do a video on the big guy because there's a new angle of that shooting, but more so He has been accused of literally the stupidest thing I have ever heard of in my entire life. Okay. So look for that in my forthcoming videos today. Bye-bye.